Guys, good to see y'all. You guys here to eat? Here to see a good show? Well, thanks for coming to East Bay Calvary tonight for the Sportsmen's Banquet. You know, this is a tradition that's gone on for many years, for almost 3 decades. And you are in the best place you can possibly be today in northern Michigan. You're in the best place. Can we say round of applause for that? Good entertainment, good food, and fellowship, and win some prizes. So my name is Terry Dickey, and I'm the founder and bladesmith of Sleepy Bear Forge. And I have the honor of being asked to come up here tonight and talk a little bit about what it means to forge a knife, what it means to take a class at a forge, and how to forge a knife yourself. But first of all, I want to make sure that understand that I'm here for a big reason, and the biggest reason is the Lord has allowed me to come here and present myself to you through my company, through what I do as a craft, and I'm so blessed to be here for that. And how many people here have knives? Do I see anybody not have a knife in here? Somebody has a knife. Everybody has a knife, right? How many have more than one knife? Oh, okay. How many of you forged your own knife? Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. See, we got a few people here who's forged knives. That's really cool. How many of you actually forged a Damascus knife? Got one back here. Now, that's rare. You're a rare bird, mister. You forged a Damascus knife. So tonight we're going to talk about, in a 10-minute video, on how to forge a Damascus knife. Now, we're going to take in this 10-minute video. This is actually a compilation of 24 to 30 hours of actual work and process time to make this. So if we can go ahead and start the video right now. Welcome to Sleepy Bear Forge. Look at that tough guy. He's really squeezing that steel. We're going to forge a Damascus knife in 10 minutes. This could be a finished knife. So we have to start out with Damascus. We have to start out with several pieces of steel. Two different types of steel. 80 CRV and 1520. One of them has nickel in it. That's the bright part of the Damascus. Now what we have to do is little pieces of steel, like 22 pieces, we have to clean them up. And we clean them up, and we actually use some acetone after we grind them down. You see, I have 2 different piles here, 15 and 20, 80 CRV2. Now I'm just going to start stacking these together, alternating in 2 different steels. Now once I get those alternated together, I'm going to clamp those together tight, as tight as I can possibly get them in this piece. Now, you can see that there are gaps in the steel. I'm going to do something to prevent that from being a problem. Right here, I'm cutting up. I need to put a handle on this big chunk of steel, this billet, so that I can put the tongs on that handle and put it in the forge. All right. I can weld, but I'm not a welder. Okay, how many of you like that out there? You can weld, but you're not a welder. That's who I am. But I'm just taking this and I'm welding these together, tack welding these, laying them all together. And I'm putting that handle on there. There, that's what that looks like. See, I'm not a welder. I just weld. That's 4 inches long. It's almost 2.5 inches tall. 22 pieces of steel. Go right in the forge. I need to get this up to 2,200 degrees. Completely through that billet. 2,200 degrees. So I can press it. Now what I'm doing here is I'm pressing those 22 layers, and that's actually called forge welding those layers together. So once I get a good forge weld, that is really one piece of steel. Notice I'm starting to draw that out. It's getting a little bit thinner. a little longer. You can see the edge are uneven. That's why you can see that. That is one piece of steel, folks. I'm going to continue to draw this out. In fact, I actually go through this process at least 3 times. What I'll do is I'll draw this out about 12 to 14 inches long, ½ inch thick. I just keep doing that and have to clean it off too every time I take it before I put it back in the forge. I want to get the scale and the carbon from the heat off of that so it doesn't contaminate the steel. So I could show this for another 20 minutes, but I've already done 2 billets for this. Now I'm getting down to the final billet where I want to cut it into pieces. You can see now right now I have about 80 layers from that 22. And I lose steel. I lose about 40% of the steel in this process. And one billet like this might take me about 6 hours of production. I typically make about 2 or 3 billets at a time. See how long that is? That's what I'm looking for, folks, right there. That has 80 layers. I'm going to take it to my horizontal bandsaw. I'm going to cut that billet into pieces. I still have to clean those up so I can put those back together. So we do that and we come up with 240 layers, right? Then from there I cut out the piece of steel I want to make. So now I have a piece of steel. It's about 4 inches, 4.5 inches long. And I'm going to start using my press to put a swell into that piece of steel. 1/2 of that is the handle, 1/2 of that's going to be the right now I'm using some tools on my press. That's a 16-ton press. Use a tool on there to help flatten that out. Now, sure, I could hammer all day long, but boy, if you got the tools, use it, right? Especially right here. Cleaning that up, that's the process every time before I put it back in for that heat. Now, what I'm doing right now is I'm refining the shape of that handle. A chunk of steel in there. I will use the hammer to do most of this. I'm actually drawing that out with my hammer, taking a little bit longer, keeping the taper on that handle the way I want it, keeping it even. That hammer, by the way, is about 2.5 pounds. And that's pretty typical that I use all day long. There might be different configurations of these hammers. There's another one I can show you. That's my favorite hammer. But what I'm doing now is I actually drew out that hammer a little bit further with the press. Now I'm going to refine that hammer a little bit better. I'm going to use the horn. Actually use the horn to bend that over and shape that layer. Having fun yet? Yeah? Alright, cool. Alright, now watch a little close. You can see the steel move. I start working on that blade part of that. I'm actually forging in that tip. Watch close. I turn it over and I'm going to refine that tip a bit more. Remember, what we started with was about a 4.5 inch piece of steel. Now I'm putting this, well, that's that dog thread hammer. It's a little bit different shape than I was using before. I use that to actually set bevels. I want to get those bevels on that blade even on both sides. That hammer works beautifully. Now I'm using a third type of hammer. I'm refining the spine on this knife. We're getting close. There you go. That's a forged knife right there. It's rough stage. Now we need to take it to the grinder. You can see that's 9 inches long. That's from that 4-inch piece of steel, 4.5 piece of steel. Now I take I want to go ahead and grind in, get that profile refined. I want to start grinding in my bevels. I'm not going to take it to an edge. Actually, the edge we forge the knife is very fast. Right. Watch close, folks. This is that heat treat process, and we set this up so we do what's called a forged and fire quench. Have you ever seen Forged and Fire? Anybody see that show? How many seen that show? Any of you been in it on the show? I haven't. Okay. So watch this. We're going to quench this now. Watch carefully. There's your Forged and Fire quench. Now I normally don't do that, but I did it for the show today. But slow motion, you see it again. Oof. I still don't have the eyebrows. That's the quench blade. I put those holes in the handle for pins, but also for take some weight out of that handle. Now this is where I go back and I finish grinding in the bevels and refining it so I get it ready to put handle material on. All right, this is the cool part. You want to see what that Damascus looks like. So we put it in the etching. This is not an acid, this is an etching. You can see it's time-lapse about 20 minutes. Now you see the Damascus coming out. The bright part has the nickel in the steel, the dark does not have any nickel. Now I'm actually cleaning up, getting handle ready for this stuff. That's your blade right there. Thank you very much. That's one of my skimmers that I make quite a bit called the National. Awesome. Well, thanks, folks. Anybody questions? Maybe I'll take any questions you might have. Back here. One down here, too.
How long does it take you to make one knife?
That's a great question. How much time does it take? Well, the right answer is I don't know. and not trying to be silly or smart, but the reason is because every knife is unique in its way, and the level of Damascus patterns that I might use can be very complex. If I don't make a Damascus knife, I probably cut the time in forging a knife in half. So if I make like that knife up there, I know that from start to finish, I probably put about 30 hours into it. That is moderately complex, but a sword, like I'm in the middle of a katana, which is like a samurai sword, that's going to take me on and off about a year to forge. But that's highly complex. Some of my smaller hunters that you see up here, some of my signature knives, maybe 12 hours. But the key is I don't really keep track of the time. Keep that in mind. I'm not a production house. I'm a what they call a one-off custom maker. And what's more important to me as a maker is that what I have has excellent fit and finish. It's true to the design, and the design process very much includes the client, because it's very important for me to know what they're looking for in a knife and how they want to use it and what kind of material they like to use. And in the end, they end up with a knife that is uniquely their own. So that's really what's important to me. Any other question back here?
On your forge, is that natural gas fired or?
That's a good question. So what I use is propane, mostly. I do have a coal forge, but I use that in the summertime for demonstrations mostly. But the propane is normally what I use. Now, the forge you saw in the video is a 3-burner forge. That is what they call naturally aspirated, which means I'm not blowing or mixing anything. It kind of naturally mixes itself. I have another forge that actually it mixes because it blows air and mixes with the fuel. and that one I use for some of my large, highly complex billets. So there's a lot of different ways you can forge. Question?
How do you make the lines on the knife?
How do I make the lines? Oh, the Damascus? Well, you make the lines because those 22 layers of steel. Now, each one of those pieces of steel is different from the next. And the one you see bright, like shiny part of the Damascus, that has an alloy in it called nickel. The dark part of that Damascus, the dark lines, those do not have nickel, so they stay dark when you use the etchant. Now, here's maybe the question you're looking for also would be, how do you change that pattern? You know, because there's raindrop pattern, there's feather pattern, there's ladder, and then I have one that I define as called Mystic River pattern, and it's really unlimited the different patterns you can make with this. But that press that we saw that I was doing this with, I have what they call dies, and the dies can come together, and they have a pattern in the die. And I can press that pattern into the die, but after I press that in, I have to clean that all up. And after I clean that back up, then I can have a piece of steel that I can start forging a knife from. Questions? Okay. We're good on... Yes, sir. I don't know if you can see it from here, but there's part of a finger here. Well, you know, it is a dangerous hobby or business because you're working with lots of steel. You're working with steel dust and wood dust. You're working with steel shards. You're working with heat. And so you're welcome to look at my hands. You'll see I've got burns. So it comes with the territory. It just does, but never really hurt. So you have to have good practices. Yes, sir.
And what's the kind of fundamental cost of that?
Okay, the good question. We do have classes, and I book classes monthly, on the weekend typically, but also can do some classes during the middle of the week. And the classes are 2 days, and in the 2 days, you start out with a piece of steel that's about 6 inches long, 3/16 thick, 1 1/4 inch wide, and you end up with a very nice hunting knife that you can take home with you. It is sharp. It's all handled up and ready to go. But the first day is all about forging and heat treat like you saw up there. The second day is all about grinding in those bevels and getting the tang ready to receive the handle material. And then second day we actually put the handle material on, finish that out, and then we sharpen it. And each day is close to 7 hours per day. And we do, anybody do working lunches? We do working lunches. Yeah. So if you bring some pizza, we can heat it up pretty easily. Yeah, okay.
Hey, Terry, for our questions, I think we're trying to record this, so if you wouldn't mind holding your question until we get the mic to you, that way people who would want to follow along better will be able.
Thank you. Love to have some more questions. Uh-huh. Oh, hey, wait, you got some over here.
What got you into doing this?
Well, I think a lot like most of us, why we're here is because I'm an outdoorsman, a sportsman, fish, hunt, most of all my life. And so a knife was always something I carried with me, always had. And probably like most of us, collected a lot of pocket folders and different knives and got deals on this and that, but always had to sharpen and take care of it. And I thought, man, I just want a better knife. And I can't afford one of these knives that are way up here in price. And so I found this kit. I think it was in one of the magazines, and it said, you can buy a kit where you can get the blade pretty much already done and comes with some wood, and you can put this all together. And I started doing that. Boy, I had fun. And they were pretty decent knives. I did that for about 4 or 5 years, but I kind of got better at it. I started choosing the wood I wanted or the materials I wanted, and I started teaching myself how to make leather sheaths and things like that. So I taught myself the craft side of the handle and the sheath first until I ran into my great friend Bill Banquet, who is a master smith above 45 years at a show in Cadillac. And I told him what I was doing, and he showed me his knives, and I was just like, oh my, I can't believe this is even possible, the kind of work that he does. And we talked and talked and talked, and he said, why don't you come by and I'll show you how to forge a knife. It's like, really? Really? Me? So we did. And that was it, guys. And here I am, 1,000 square foot shop, teaching classes, master smith, and I hate to even tell. Is my wife here? Because I don't know if I want to mention how much money got invested here. But anyways, it's a long-term investment. And the way I've always worked my shop is that when I'm able to make a knife and sell it or to a class, a great amount of money goes right back into the shop. So I'm just growing the hobby. And the joy that I really have is teaching the classes. I love making my knives. I really do. But I really love teaching the classes and sharing that experience with everybody.
So with the Damascuses you just made was layers. Do you do much with canisters?
Yes, I do. I had a very unique project that I finished up this fall. Had a young man that passed away at a young age, but he was kind of expected. But Dad and his brother wanted a special knife made, and they had some antler crown from his last deer harvest. They actually had some of his ashes. But he was also a motorcyclist, and so I got some of his motorcycle chain. So I took those materials, not the antler crown, but I took the steel and the ashes and incorporated them into a canister. And what I did with that was I incorporated him. That was the key, a legacy piece, a memory for his family. So ended up taking that stag and using it at the butt or the tail end of the handle too. But I also incorporated some of the ashes. So we use epoxy, some marine epoxy quite a bit. So we incorporated that. So very special projects. And that's one of the things I'm kind of becoming to get a reputation over the last 10 years is doing specialty, like that samurai sword or some of the big choppers that I make that you might see online in my website. So canister Damascus is a skill in its own and very challenging, very difficult, and prone to failure. So when I do canister, it's a very specific purpose behind it, and I usually plan on making 2 or 3 of them before I get the best one. It's a great question.
Yeah, speaking of samurai swords, I have one, and the person that had it before me, I don't know what they chop, but there's a bunch of little dings in it. And then his mother had all her house engraved in stuff, so far stuff got stolen. So they have an engraving number in it. Is there any way I could get that fixed, or is that something you can work on?
Well, I do knife reconditioning. It's always possible, and honestly, if you have old knives that, honestly, a lot of knives that we'd like to have reconditioned may really not have value other than the value is here in your heart for your family. They might be an heirloom or something handed down. And we can take those, and I will take those, and I have to look at them first. I really have to assess what the damages might be or what the reconditioning, so that's the best way to look at it. I don't charge for estimates or anything like that, but the reconditioning is quite fun because I get a lot of marble knives, old original marble knives from the UP. I get a lot of buck knives that come in, Not the folders necessarily, but some of the buck knives that come in, they want reconditioned with the leather handles and some of the stag that they use. So I do that. So, any questions? All right. If there aren't any more, we forgot. All right. All right. Pastor?
How old do you have to be to take the classes?
Okay. I knew I was going to get asked this question. 15.
Thank you.
15 is typically my limit. And that's just from experience in the last 3.5 years of doing classes. Because it's such an intense 7-hour-a-day in hammering, that age right there and above seems to be able to do really well. So the class is all about you making the knife, not me. That's the key, right? Good question.
What was your experience on Forged in Fire?
Oh, that's a great question too. Well, my experience was fantastic. I didn't win. I'm proud that I was asked to be on that show, and they kind of tracked me down for a couple of years, and I really refused to go on. But my buddy Bill, who I mentioned earlier, I kind of chided him into it. I said, "Bill, you got to get on this. You're getting up in age, buddy." And he said he finally did it. But I said, "If you win, I'll say yes and get on." So sure enough, at 73 years old, he's the oldest champion on Forged in Fire. He won it. But they put you up. They fly you out. They put you up in a hotel. They feed you. And you're there for at least 4 days. And they film for about 40 hours. And imagine, if you watch History Channel, Forged in Fire, you really only see about 32 minutes of that 40 hours. So they really do a lot of editing. As I say, they put a lot of lipstick on that pig. Okay? And my episode was no different. In fact, the contestants, we weren't quite sure that our show would even make the cut, because not every time they film something that they actually show it. So, but we were surprised. So the experience was fantastic. They treated you professionally. You had your own celebrity trailer. You had your own cameraman. You had your own associate producer. And they took care of you. And they were so happy to see it. And the judges were fantastic. Good friends. And I do shows, use one international show a year in Atlanta. It's the biggest blade show in the world. And some of the other shows that I go to and some of the seminars that I go to, I see most of these people anytime I go to these shows. And so it's a lot of fun. It's kind of like a family. It's kind of an interesting, win or lose, you're part of that family, that Forged in Fire family. So it's a proud moment and an honor.
How many knives have you made?
Wow. A lot. I think, I don't really keep count, but 15 years of knife making, I'm going to guess, maybe over 500, maybe, something like that. So quite a few. Okay, the question you really need to ask, how many go in the trash? Well, I have a bucket. I throw things in when I don't like what I see. So here's the interesting thing. And after we get done with this, we do need to move on to the raffle. Okay, guys, we are running a little short of time here, but I throw those in a bucket because for some reason I don't like them. And at that moment, and I keep those. And I have one knife in particular that stayed in that bucket for 3 years. I'd look at it and put it back in. I'd look at it and put it back in. And it actually became one of the best knives I've ever made. And it wasn't even Damascus. 3 years later, I took it out and said, I finally figured something out on how I can forge and how I can make this what I really thought I could get out of it, and I made it. And I sold that knife, and that is the only knife I've ever made that I wish I'd never sold. How that happens sometimes, right? But I don't try to give up on them. I try to learn from each experience that I have in knives so that I can keep improving the craft. I can teach it better to my students, and then I'm a pretty happy guy. So, but how about anybody want to win something? Yeah, we ready? All right.